Intersecting Media presents.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
The next thing in late night talk.
Here we go.
While you're working, eating, and playing, he's watching.
It'll be like O10.
Keeping you informed.
Thank you.
Jason Page.
Demented and sad, but social.
Covering all the day's news from a studio somewhere in Southeast Asia.
Worldwide!
And talking about it with you.
Blah, blah, blah.
You're Up Late with Jason Page.
Hoo-ah!
Or up early.
Good morning.
But just stay up.
It is time.
Here's Jason.
Thank you, Chad Erickson, and thank you for being with us. Up late on this Thursday night / Friday, depending on where you are in the world. We appreciate you tuning in. The side of my face is a little overlit today. Say I need to just keep it up like that. We'll figure it out one day. One of these days. We'll get the lighting correct in this studio of ours. Good to have you with us, as I said. Happy Chinese New Year for those of you celebrating. This is my first Chinese New Year. First time I get to celebrate Chinese New Year. Every time I've been in Singapore, it's been just before Chinese New Year. So I always kind of miss out on the festivities. And this year, I'm actually here during Chinese New Year. So I'm getting used to all these different customs. People are giving me packets with money in them. I'm not allowed to open them, though, so I don't know how much money are in them. I know, it's always about the money at the end of the day, isn't it? Make sure to interact. We have a chat room. You'll see the box on the screen there if you look down there, right there. See if I can figure this out. Right there? Yeah. The chat box is there. So anything we talk about, you're more than welcome to chime in. If you have any questions of any kind, feel free to chime in. During the course of the hour, I'll probably answer them if I catch them on my screen in time. I meant to share a story on our last show. We took yesterday off. I meant to share a story on the last show about one of these signs of aging that I recently was subjected to. I might have talked about it a little bit, but I'll get into it a little later on in the show. We'll talk about that. Also, some interesting news in sports with regard to a coaching hire in Jacksonville in the NFL. And I don't mean Urban Meyer. I'll explain what I'm talking about coming up a little later on. The latest on Trump's vanity wall, it doesn't look good unless you're a Democrat and you were hoping for the wall to be discontinued. We'll get into that a little bit. We have an update on Gorilla Glue Girl. Yes, Gorilla Glue Girl. There is a happy ending to the Gorilla Glue Girl story that we will get to during the course of this show. But I want to start off on a very serious topic today. Let's chat about Fox News Primetime. Now, I will say, in full disclosure, I appear on Fox News. I've appeared on their early morning show, Fox and Friends First. Todd Pyro is one of the anchors there. I've known him for a while. I consider him a friend. And in an industry where there aren't a lot of friends, he is a friend. And so I have appeared on that show from time to time to talk about sports issues. I've also appeared in the past on MSNBC, ABC World News Now, blah, blah, blah. So I appear in a lot of different places. And a lot of people like to give me grief when I appear on Fox News saying, how could you appear there? Well, I'm talking about sports. It's not political, although sometimes we delve into the political angles of sports. For the most part, we're talking about sports issues. So I tend to have no problem making those appearances. Plus, the answer I would say to a lot of people like, well, I'll never watch you if you're on Fox News. When you're my agent and you're making me money and you're booking me on other networks, then you can talk. Otherwise, shut up. Plain and simple. Now, with all that being said, I think we need to have a very serious conversation when it comes to Fox News Primetime. And this isn't anything that hasn't been repeated on other networks and in other places. But I think it's one of those things where we need to take a little bit of a deeper dive into just how phony Fox News Primetime is. Now, there are credible journalists that work at Fox News. Chris Wallace does an outstanding job. Even Bill Hemmer, for the most part, does a good job. And my buddy Todd Pyro in the morning. For the most part, there are good journalists at Fox News. It's all overshadowed, though, by Primetime. And let's be honest, Primetime is the straw that stirs the drink for a lot of these networks. It's where they make their biggest ad revenue dollars. It's where they can charge the highest rates because they have the biggest ratings. And when it comes to Fox News, it's actually gotten to the point now where I think we need to have a conversation, because there is, in this cancel culture era that we live in, there are a lot of people calling for basically the cancellation of Fox News Primetime. That we need to take Fox News off the air. We need to take Tucker Carlson down. We need to take Sean Hannity down. We got to take these guys down. And it was something that Tucker Carlson alluded to in his monologue on Thursday night. I want you to take a listen.
Those would include centuries of tradition. Well, of all the impediments to achieving this goal of uniformity, those would include centuries of tradition, the First Amendment to the Constitution, the fact this was a free country. Of all of those, it's this channel, Fox News, that is the most significant hurdle to getting everyone to sing from the same song sheet. Fox is the last big organization in the American news media that differs in even the smallest ways from the other big news organizations. The only one, that's it, just us. At this point, there's everyone else in the...
Can I pause that for a second? I'll go back and let him finish. First of all, that's a lie. So we're already starting on the premise of a lie. There's Newsmax, there's OAN, and in the case of Newsmax, Fox News is so freaked out right now because Newsmax is starting to cut into their numbers in a big way, especially in prime time. So Tucker's already started with the premise of a lie. That they're the only network that caters to conservatives is utter bullshit. It's a lie. Now, I'm giving you facts here. I'm hoping just one or two conservatives that watch Fox News are smart enough to watch tonight and say, oh, really? That's my goal tonight. That's my hope. Is that just somebody, one or two even, look at this and say, wait a second. So I've already uncovered one lie from Tucker, that they're the only network that caters to conservatives and blah, 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 blah.
That's it, just us.
No, not just you.
At this point, there's everyone else in the media standing in crisp formation in their starched matching uniforms and their little caps, patiently awaiting orders from the billionaire class. And then there's Fox News, off by itself, occasionally saying things that are slightly different from everyone else.
Or slightly lies.
On Fox, there are still journalists who are willing to think for themselves sometimes and brave enough to say so out loud.
So that was Tucker. So I already gave you two lies. Brave enough to say different things. Well, they're lies. Just call them what they are. We're the only conservative network. We're the only network that does it. That's a lie. And I will say, I have already seen CNN take Joe Biden to task. So this idea that CNN's just going to march in step with everything that Joe Biden and the Democrats decide to do while they have control of the House, Congress, and the House, the Senate, and the White House, it's just folly. It's not true. It's just not true. The reason people want to shut down Fox News, and in particular Fox News Primetime, it isn't so much the fact that your opinions differ. It's that your facts differ. And there is no differing of facts. There's no, remember when Kellyanne Conway used the alternative facts? There is no alternative facts. There are facts and there are non-facts. There are facts, there are lies. There are truths, there are lies. In the case of Fox News, far too often they tell lies and they get away with it. That's starting to change. And that's very dangerous for their brand in primetime. Again, I'm specifying primetime for a reason. But now even the 7 o'clock hour is starting to be inundated with a lot of craziness now that they took Martha McCallum off the air, who gave a glimmer of hope to that time slot in terms of giving some type of honest journalism. But you heard Tucker Carlson there. That's just the start of the lies. We continue.
Just yesterday, Christoph suggested that this show, the one you're watching, was
Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times, by the way, is who he's referring to.
somehow guilty of terrorism, of violence, something that we've been opposed consistently for 4 years. How are we guilty of that and why? Well, because Ashley Babbitt, the unarmed protester shot to death at the Capitol on January 6th, apparently watched this show from time to time at 8 p.m. Now, keep in mind that Ashley Babbitt is dead. She paid quite a price for trying to enter the speaker's lobby without permission, and no one mourned her. What kind of country is it, by the way? And we're saying this as a show that was against what they did on January 6th from the second they did it.
He wants you to mourn a protester who unlawfully broke into the Capitol and was about to climb through a window with a gun pointed at her. You want us to feel sorry for Ashley Babbitt. Where was that sympathy when it came to, I don't know, I'll just throw out a name, George Floyd? Where was that sympathy when it came to, I don't know, the numerous unarmed black men that have been gunned down by police, some unjustly so? I wonder where that sympathy was. Something tells me it wasn't there. Oh, but we'll get back to that.
But what kind of country is it where nobody says, whoa, wait, that's kind of sad? They shot an unarmed woman? Is that really a death penalty offense? How hard-hearted are we that no one can even acknowledge that's sad, which it is?
Wow.
What kind of country is it where a Republican member of Congress from Oklahoma applauded her death immediately? Nick Kristof is applauding it, but for Nick Kristof, her death is not enough. Now we need to ban any television shows that Ashley Babbitt may have watched.
Which included Tucker Carlson's show from time to time, as he went on to explain. So see, Tucker's making this about himself. He knows the heat is there. He's seen what's happened to Lou Dobbs when sponsors flee. And that's where this gets very interesting in the whole cancel culture thing, is when sponsors start to say, we're not going to spend our ad dollars anymore and be a part of your program, that's the beginning of the end for a lot of these shows. It's what happened to Bill O'Reilly. He had the top-rated show on Fox News. Gone. Now he's muttering to himself on some crazy right-wing channel and hoping that somebody's watching. And he does a radio commentary because there are still conservative radio, which owns the airwaves, by the way, in the talk landscape. For everybody who says, well, the conservatives don't have a voice. You have all of talk radio. Shut up. Shut up. You're an idiot. You're ignorant. Just being honest. You own all of talk radio. All of it. Trust me. I tried to make a dent. Radio stations won't even talk to you unless you're conservative. I'm an independent. I'm a moderate, and they won't even talk to me. So you have Tucker making the argument because Nicholas Kristof says we're terrorists. So he takes one person, a columnist, noted columnist, with an extreme view. You take this one columnist with an extreme view and use him to paint everybody as wanting to get rid of Fox News. First of all, conservatives have been screaming for 20 years that liberals are going to shut down the conservative media. This has been a talking point even further back than that. Over 20 years. They've been saying they're going to bring back the fairness doctrine and they're going to take down conservative media. It's not going to happen. When it does, call me. It's not going to happen. Destroy Carnage checking in on Twitch says, I love Tucker. Well, Destroy Carnage, respectfully, Tucker's a bold-faced liar, and I just showed it. And I'll show it even more so right now, because while he waxed poetic about poor Ashley Babbitt, who stormed the Capitol and got shot and killed for it, for trying to climb through a window she wasn't supposed to climb through, with a gun pointed at her by the police. Oh, my God. While he said that about Ashley Babbitt, listen to what Tucker Carlson says about the death of George Floyd. No, let me correct that. The murder of George Floyd. So here's Tucker, in his own words, about George Floyd.
So what does all of this mean exactly? We're not sure what it means, and we're not going to speculate. We do know for certain that the known facts of what happened on January 6th deviate in very important ways from the story they are now telling us, including the story they told us today in the impeachment hearings.
This was, by the way, from Wednesday night's show.
And in many places, the known facts bear no resemblance to the story they're telling. They're just flat out lying. There's no question about that. The question is, why would they lie about this? For an answer, think back to last spring. Beginning on Memorial Day, BLM and their sponsors in corporate America completely changed this country. They changed this country more in 5 months than it had changed in the previous 50 years. How'd they do that? They used the sad death of a man called George Floyd to upend our society. Months later, we learned that the story they told us about George Floyd's death was an utter lie. There was no physical evidence that George Floyd was murdered by a cop.
All right, stop. Stop. This is insanity, okay? This is completely trying to rewrite history. This is a bold-faced lie that Tucker Carlson is telling you in the 8 p.m. Eastern time slot on Fox News. He's lying to you. He thinks you're an idiot, and if you believe him without doing your homework, you are an idiot. Because the fact of the matter is, George Floyd was murdered. His death ruled a homicide. I give you the evidence. June 4th, 2020, NPR. Oh, yes, that bastion of liberalism. Direct from the medical examiner's autopsy of George Floyd. Yes, there were drugs in his system, fentanyl and meth. But the 46-year-old, according to the autopsy report, and this is from Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office, concludes the cause of death was basically a cardiopulmonary arrest, which is cardiac arrest, complicating law enforcement subdual, restraint, and neck compression. Nothing in there about drugs. That conclusion, the article states, death due to heart failure differs from the one reached by an independent examiner hired by the Floyd family that reported listing the death as asphyxiation from sustained pressure. Restraint and neck compression. Tucker lied to you. And that's why the cause of death is homicide. Not accidental overdose, not drugged overdose, homicide. So Tucker is lying to you. For all of you who say, I love Tucker. He's a bold-faced liar. Play it again.
Facts bear no resemblance to the story they're telling. They're just flat out lying. There's no question about that. The question is, why would they lie about this? For an answer, think back to last spring. Beginning on Memorial Day, BLM and their sponsors in corporate America completely changed this country. They changed this country more in 5 months than it had changed in the previous 50 years. How'd they do that? They used the sad death of a man called George Floyd to upend our society. Months later, we learned that the story they told us about George Floyd's death was an utter lie. There was no physical evidence that
Only
George
lie
Floyd
is
was
you.
murdered by a cop. The autopsy showed that George Floyd almost certainly died of a drug overdose, fentanyl. But by that point, facts didn't matter. It was too late. Cities had been destroyed, along with the fabric of this country itself. Scores of people had been killed.
It is so rich for Tucker Carlson to sit there. By that point, facts don't matter. Well, see, Destroy, you can't say I love Tucker and then say I don't watch news, so I don't really keep up with that. You can't wash your hands of the lies of the person you watch by saying, well, I don't watch, so I don't really know. I mean, everyone lies in this industry. No, that's where you're wrong. Not everyone lies. I just gave you 21 minutes of truth. You either choose to ignore it or you choose to believe it. And now, like I said, the boycotts are coming. The sponsor boycotts are coming. Tucker knows. He just saw what happened to Lou Dobbs. Lou Dobbs had the highest rated show on Fox Business, which granted doesn't get huge numbers anyway, but it was still the biggest numbers on a fledgling channel. Tucker sees what happened to Lou Dobbs. If they can yank him off the air with the highest ratings, if they could take Bill O'Reilly off the air with the highest ratings, what would stop them from taking his scrawny ass off the air? Oh, but then there's Sean Hannity. Oh, do we love Sean Hannity, don't we?
They are propaganda outlets. They are state-run TV for the radical Democratic Extreme Socialist Party. They spread endless lies, conspiracy theories, one hoax, one conspiracy theory after another. Then when they lie, they never admit they're wrong. They just move on to the next set of lies. They are hateful. This is a destructive force for the country. I've been saying it now for 3 years. They have contempt for the American people because they think they're smarter. They think they know better. Donald Trump.
Lies, and more lies. Sean Hannity's going to tell you about lies when he's the biggest liar of them all. Remember what Sean Hannity said about coronavirus? Doesn't look very good now, does it? Remember what Sean Hannity did to poor Seth Rich's family? Remember what Hannity did to Seth Rich's family? Constantly trumpeting out this conspiracy theory, this tinfoil wrapped around the head idea that Seth Rich was murdered and it was the Clintons that were involved. It was the Democratic Party. And then Fox News got sued. And then Sean Hannity suddenly stopped talking about Seth Rich. Seth Rich story went away. Might talk about it from time to time on his radio show, but even there he had to be careful. This is Fox News Primetime, and I don't even have enough time to get into Laura Ingraham. I could have spent the whole hour on this. But this is Fox News Primetime for you. This is what you get. Tucker, Hannity, Laura Ingraham, the bevy of lies. That's what we want taken off the air. It's okay to have opinions rooted in fact that give you pause to disagree with one political party or another. Nobody's saying shut that down. But we've reached a breaking point here in America where people can just go on the air and say anything no matter how untrue it is. And the consequences of those lies are partly what you saw at the Capitol on January 6th. And what you may see again in a far worse manner someday if these sorts of lies are allowed to continue. Now, as far as I know, as of the time we came on the air tonight, there's been no apology or retraction from Tucker Carlson on his lie that George Floyd was murdered. or in his case, wasn't murdered. There's been no retraction. Fox News hasn't said anything. This is being allowed to sit out there right now. And there are people watching me, watching TV, watching all these different things who will say, well, see, Fox News said it's not true. I guarantee you, I have family members that were probably watching Tucker Carlson Wednesday night when he said that. And they're like, yeah, see, George Floyd didn't get murdered by no cop. He was a drug addict. So what if he had a knee on his neck for 13, 14, 15 minutes? Who cares? And that's just the tip of the iceberg that I'm giving you. And we can go all night. Can go all night if we wanted to on the level of lies. And by the way, if you listen to my conversation a week or two ago with John Aravosis from America Blog, I took CNN to task for the way they sat there on Inauguration Day and basically celebrated the end of the Trump administration in such a way that was almost vulgar to me, and in a way that was meant to put a thumb in the eye of conservatives. I went after CNN for that. So you can't say, oh, you just go after one side and you don't go after the other. No, you just choose to hear what you want to hear. But I went after CNN for the way it celebrated and basically poked fun at the fact that Trump was gone. When 74 million people voted for the guy, rightly or wrongly, whether you agree with those people or disagree with those people feel as if their voice now won't be heard. And if they were watching that segment with Don Lemon and John Kasich, and it might have been Charlie Kirk, I think it was Charlie Kirk, former Pennsylvania congressman. But if a conservative was watching that, why would they ever tune in again? When you're basically stomping on their grave. But to sit there, if you're Tucker Carlson, and to say George Floyd didn't die as a result of a homicide. No, he died because he was a druggie. And for Fox News to allow that to sit there, can't have it. You just can't have it. There was even a case, and I don't know if I have enough time to look it up right now, but this is, again, you need to know, you got to do your homework. Fox News admits they lie. They've admitted this. Fox News settled a lawsuit on the Seth Rich matter. Their biggest asking point in the Seth Rich lawsuit, with Lou Dobbs and Sean Hannity trumpeting out this Seth Rich conspiracy theory, Fox News' big ask was, we don't want it revealed before the election that we lied about Seth Rich. But they settled for an undisclosed amount. But Fox News actually is admitted in court depositions, in court cases, to the fact that, well, it's primetime and it's entertainment and it's opinion programming, and yeah, we might just tell some lies from time to time, but ... So nobody's saying Fox News needs to be taken off the air. People are saying, rational people are saying, we need to get to a point in society where truth matters, where truth makes a difference. And Destroy Carnage, I will say this again. Tucker Carlson said George Floyd wasn't murdered. It's very clear he was murdered because his death was ruled a homicide. Homicide is murder. So you can put anything you want on the screen. You can put anything you want in a chat box. When Tucker Carlson says he wasn't murdered, he was murdered. I read it. Cardiopulmonary arrest, complicating law enforcement subdual, restraint, and neck compression. That medical examiner's report also detailed blunt force injuries to the skin of Floyd's head, face, upper lip, shoulders, hands, elbows, bruising of wrists. He would not have died but for that officer's knee being on his neck. He could have survived. May have had to go to the hospital, but he could have survived. All right. I just wanted to give you a little chat. I thought it was important to have a chat about Fox News Primetime. And again, there's a reason that sponsors are bailing from Tucker Carlson, and he felt the need to come out tonight and say, please, don't cancel us. Cancel culture bad. Because he knows he's on the ropes and he knows he's in trouble. But he's not willing to go down with an apology. No. He's going to go down with the ship. No matter how big that hole in the side of it from the iceberg he just hit is. His days are numbered. You get that sense. All right, stick around. We got more to do. Up Late with Jason Page. Tucker Carlson's not the only one potentially on the verge of getting canceled. One Hollywood actress finds herself in hot water. We'll get to that and much more as we continue. Up Late. Good to have you with us. We welcome you back to Up Late. I am Jason Page. Thank you for being with us on this Thursday night / Friday. Happy New Year to those of you celebrating the Lunar New Year. I'm the snake. I was born in the year of the snake, apparently. And according to all the horoscopes, I'm supposed to have a great year, so yay me. I was talking to my brother last night. I can't tell you guys how much the biggest, I've talked about the few things that bother me about life in Singapore. And the one that probably bothers me the most, it's going to sound stupid. I can't find baseball cards here because baseball is not a big sport. You can find basketball cards. You can find soccer cards. You can find a little bit of football, American football, that is. You cannot find baseball cards with very few exceptions. So I'm dying a slow death here in Singapore with my baseball card collection that's over in the the corner over here of the studio, and I can't collect baseball cards. And all I want right now is a box of 2021 Topps Baseball. And I have no way to get it. It's making me crazy. Yeah, Pokemon's big here, but I don't enjoy Pokemon. I enjoy baseball cards. Yeah, I know Pokemon's big. I can find Pokemon. I can find all that stuff. But it's hard, man. It's tough when you can't get your hands on the goods you want. This could be bad news for Donald Trump. Destroy, our buddy watching the show, says he hasn't ripped anything lately. This could be bad news for Donald Trump, even though I didn't hear Democrats really pounce on this point in the course of their impeachment case that they were making. It doesn't look good when Tommy Tuberville, the former Auburn football coach, it doesn't look good when Tommy Tuberville is basically putting his side of the story out there about a phone call that was made while the uprising at the Capitol was taking place. Tommy Tuberville says he informed Trump. This is the headline from Politico. Tuberville says he informed Trump of Pence's evacuation before rioters reached the Senate. Now, keep in mind, throughout everything that was going on January 6th, up until well after the riot had started to subside, you heard nothing from the president. Nothing. Kyle Cheney wrote the story. Tuberville revealed late Wednesday he spoke to Donald Trump on January 6th as a violent mob closed in on the Senate and informed the then president directly that Vice President Mike Pence had just been evacuated from the chamber. I said, quote, Mr. President, they just took the vice president out. I've got to go. Said he cut the phone call short amid the chaos. Now, the existence of the phone call, everybody's known about it. But the detail that Tuberville informed Trump his vice president was in danger is a new and potentially harmful development for the president. Now, I don't think the Senate's going to vote to convict. You need 17 Republicans to come on board. You might get 5 or 6. You're not getting 17. But it occurred just around the time that Trump sent a tweet attacking Pence for not having the courage to unilaterally stop Biden's victory. And Trump has never indicated publicly that he was aware of Pence's plight. That relationship has been forever damaged, Trump and Pence. I'll be curious one day to see if Pence talks. If Pence gives his side of the story about what he said to Trump in the aftermath, because they had a very long, not so pleasant conversation eventually once they started talking again towards the end of Trump's presidency. But when did Trump know of the danger that Pence was in? Keep in mind, this is the president of the United States. They find out everything that's going on. They've got security, they've got intelligence, they've got things that we can't even fathom in terms of the ability to know what's going on around the world, let alone down the street from the White House. So it's obvious Trump knew what was going on. He just didn't care. It's not a good thing for Trump, though, as it relates to this impeachment. The Senate will vote to convict. I would be shocked. I would be shocked. All right, 2 cancel culture stories for you today. One involves somebody who said some crazy things that could be considered racist. And one involves a legendary rock star, I guess you could say. Rock and roll star. First, the story about, anybody watch The Mandalorian? I've watched one episode. They don't have Disney Plus in Singapore. It's coming here February 23rd. And when it does get here, I will watch The Mandalorian. So no spoilers. Everybody dies! No spoilers. Mandalorian star Gina Carano is out at Lucasfilm and out when it comes to Mandalorian after what is being described as abhorrent social media posts. Lucasfilm said, quote, Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm. She's also been dropped by her agency, United Talent Artists. Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. Now, Carano was quick to get these things off of social media, but not quick enough. She repeatedly made offensive remarks on her Instagram stories Tuesday night, including one that likened contemporary political differences to the treatment of Jews in Nazi Germany. Listen, let me give you a piece of advice if you want to get into broadcasting. There's very little good advice I ever got from my boss at NBC Sports, Jack Silver. I mean, he was a nice man, but he was Mr. Magoo. Again, nice man, but very Magoo-ish. Jack Silver once said, one piece of advice he gave was, no jokes about bodily fluids. It's just no way for it to go well. And depending on where people are listening, they might be eating, and it's going to go badly for you. Because one day I might have made a poop or a pee joke or something like that on the air, and he was like, just don't do it. I took that advice. The other is, don't reference Nazis or Hitler. It's never going to end well for you. And there's been countless examples of this. Don't reference Nazis. Don't reference Hitler. Ask Kurt Schilling right now. He can't even get into the Hall of Fame because of things he said. You just don't go there. Carano also reportedly shared a photo of a person wearing multiple cloth masks with the caption, quote, meanwhile in California, ... Both posts were gone from her Instagram by midday Wednesday. Other posts, including one in which Carano wrote, Jeff Epstein didn't kill himself, remained. So she's batshit crazy. By the way, there's a lot of people in Hollywood that are batshit crazy. Republicans and Democrats alike. Some that give to Republican causes, some that give to Democratic causes. This isn't both sidesism. This is just fact. A lot of batshit crazy people in Hollywood. Carano is no stranger when it comes to controversy in social media. Back in November, she was criticized for mocking people who specify preferred pronouns when she updated her Twitter bio with beep, bop, boop, which she later removed. In December, Lucasfilm had actually announced a spin-off of The Mandalorian, which a lot of people thought was going to be a path for her character in The Mandalorian. Doesn't look like that's going to happen now. So long and farewell to Gina Carano. But Gina Carano's not the only one getting canceled today. Nope. The boss, not feeling so bossy. Yep. Bruce Springsteen. Finding himself on the wrong side of cancel culture. Bruce Springsteen had this big ad that was out during the Super Bowl. And it was one of the more popular ads, I think. It was a Jeep commercial. And this ad, which included Springsteen, debuted during the Super Bowl, has now been pulled by Jeep because Bruce Springsteen apparently was arrested for suspicion of driving while intoxicated back in November. Quote, when this is all resolved, I think people are going to have some serious doubts about the seriousness of this, especially when the actual details of this are revealed, including the blood alcohol level. That's what one source close to the story told CNN. He was arrested at Gateway National Recreation Area in Sandy Hook. It's in New Jersey. Charged with DWI, reckless driving and consuming alcohol in a closed area. That night, the source close to the singer said, Springsteen took a shot of alcohol with fans in the park. After taking a photo with them, the source added that Springsteen is known to take photographs with fans. That's typical Bruce. Source said of the authorities, I don't know why they stopped him. I mean, technically, you're not allowed to drink in a state park, and I don't know, maybe if a policeman sees somebody drinking, doesn't give them a ticket, they lose their job. Any kind of alcohol-related driving thing is serious. So here's the question. Because we all know at this point it's so subjective. Where's the line? Should Jeep have pulled the ad because of this? Should they have waited until more facts came out? Are they going to put the ad back on if facts come out that show he wasn't drunk? What would you do in that spot? What should these companies do in that spot? Now where's the line? Because I think depending on the company, the line is different. Where's the line? One officer said they observed Springsteen consume a shot of Patron tequila and then get on his motorcycle and start the engine. Springsteen told the officer he had consumed 2 shots of tequila in the previous 20 minutes. So, now Bruce Springsteen is being canceled by Jeep as a result of this. Now, look, you will find no bigger proponent of the idea of punishing drunk driving. I had a friend, in full disclosure, who was killed in a drunk driving accident just a couple of years ago. So it's something that's very personal to me. Rest in peace, Frank. So, because I view drunk driving, even if you don't kill somebody, it's like shooting a loaded weapon into a crowd and hoping it doesn't hit somebody. I've often told the story. I drove drunk once in my life. Once. I just turned 21. My fiance and I had just split up. I went out and got hammered and got behind the wheel. And I was driving to a radio station I was working at. This was in Maryland at the time. Got pulled over by a cop. The cop knew who I was because I was with the radio station and they all knew me. And the cop said, look, I'm going to follow you home because I know if I give you a breathalyzer, you're not going to pass. And he followed me home, made sure I was okay. And that was the end of it. It was the only time I ever drove drunk. But does that mean I should be canceled? That's it? I should never be allowed on the air anywhere again because I made that one mistake and now I've disclosed it. Oh my God. Where's the line? Is it at making comments comparing people to Nazis and Hitler and Jews in Germany? Where's the line? Who's to say where that line is? Every company, every corporation, every media outlet is different. Jeffrey Toobin, the CNN legal expert, inadvertently gets caught with his pants down, literally, during a Zoom call with colleagues. Canceled. Done. I don't think he was attempting to be caught, but he had the camera on when he shouldn't have, and he was doing something, and it was seen by people, and that's it. Jeffrey Toobin, done. Respected legal expert in the media world, done. I think he's tweeted once since all of this happened. And that was it. He's just disappeared. Hope he stashed some of his money away because he ain't making much more of it. Who knows? You know, who is to say where that line is? Let me know what you think. Hit me up in the chat room. You could always do that. I'm on Twitter as well, at the back page. Again, on Twitter, at the back page. Because I don't know where the line is. I don't know where it is. All right, stick around. I got more to get to before we go. I only got a few minutes left to do it. Quick break. I'll get my screens all together so I know what I'm actually going to be discussing. Two stories that I want to get to before we go. One involves Trump and his wall at the border that Mexico was supposed to pay for, but they haven't. And the other comes from the sports world, and it's not a very good start for one NFL head coach. That's next, up late. All right, we welcome you back up late. I am Jason. Happy New Year to those of you celebrating the Lunar New Year. I get all these packets with money in them. I'm not allowed to open them because Chinese New Year, part of the thing is people give you money. They give you red packets. And they might have $6, $10. It has to be an even number. So I'm being kind of indoctrinated into Chinese culture. And the one thing that's interesting about Chinese New Year is, whereas in the United States on Thanksgiving, everything's still open, Christmas, everything is still open, all these sacred holidays, oh my God. But yeah, it's still okay to have virtually everything open on these days. The difference here is, and even like New Year's Eve, everything's still open in the U.S. Chinese New Year, this country, Singapore, virtually shuts down for the entire, not the entire thing of Chinese New Year, which I think is like a week or a few days, but it shuts down for the first 2 days. It's done. There's nothing when it comes to Chinese New Year that you can find open except for 7-Eleven and McDonald's and maybe Starbucks. Other than that, all of the stores are closed. People are celebrating with their families. They're reuniting with their families in some cases. That's Chinese New Year. It's a much more family-oriented culture here, to the point that they shut down these businesses, the malls, everything, for 2 whole days. It's a lot of money. Priorities. Just goes to show you the difference in the culture here. Rightly or wrongly, that's just how it is. Okay, 2 stories before I go. One, if you were hoping that Trump's border wall would be no longer, you're probably going to be happy. Because the Trump border wall looks like it's going to be no longer. The Biden administration has lifted the state of emergency that Trump had put into effect, which basically ends the building of the border wall. Now, I will say this. Seeing as the project has been started and the money's already been allocated, I get that people are against the border wall, but it's going to be kind of stupid when we have half a wall built and people could just walk around it if they choose to veer off hundreds of miles in another direction. Yeah, it may still be tough for them, but if we started the wall, at this point, shouldn't you just finish it, suck it up? Just putting that out there. Last story before we go. Last important story before we go. Urban Meyer, when Urban Meyer got hired, I tweeted out something. And this was before I had any idea who Urban Meyer was going to hire. Before the Jaguars hired Urban Meyer, I said, here's how this story ends. Urban Meyer makes a ton of money for 2 or 3 years, realizes he can't win in Jacksonville, and either walks away or gets fired or a combination of the two. And he walks away rich, and the Jaguars organization loses 2 or 3 years. Because the difference between college football and pro football is this. You can go out into players' bedrooms with their parents sitting there and high school kids and try to convince them to come play for you. In the NFL, that doesn't work. And it's Jacksonville. And it's not a franchise with exactly a big winning tradition. And Urban Meyer has no track record as an NFL head coach. What he's done at the collegiate level for a lot of these guys doesn't mean squat to them. Doesn't mean anything for these NFL players who we're looking at. So I was never a big fan of the Urban Meyer hire. And as we've learned, for everybody who gets gaga and goes gaga about NFL head coach hirings. Oh, Robert Saleh gets hired by the Jets. Oh, my God, we're going to be great. You still don't have a quarterback. We don't know who you're going to draft. Maybe you get Fields. Maybe you stick with Sam Darnold. Maybe you deal Sam Darnold. Whatever. Players win. The old adage is players win, coaches lose. Players win in this league. Tom Brady just showed you that, Bill Belichick is great in the hoodie, and what a game coach, and man, he's got all this wizardry. And then Tom Brady left. They didn't make the playoffs, and Tom Brady went in his first year in Tampa Bay. New team, new coach, new roster, limited offseason workouts in the middle of COVID, and he won a Super Bowl. Coaching? But anyway, this is not a good start to the Urban Meyer era in Jacksonville. Hey, Jay. Thanks for saying hi. Jay Alvarez, my buddy out in Palm Springs, saying hello. This is not a good look for Urban Meyer. So his first head coaching job since he retires from Ohio State in Jacksonville, he unveiled his coaching staff recently with the Jaguars. And it apparently includes a dude that has a history of saying, well, what a lot of people would consider racist stuff to black people. Former Iowa strength coach Chris Doyle will serve as the Jaguars' director of sports performance. Why was he on the market and available for the job? Well, in June, he reached a separation agreement with Iowa, the University of, where he had worked since 1999, where he made $800,000 a year. Wow, where can I get that money? And he walked away with 3/4 of that in the separation. This after a large group of black players dared to speak out about how he mistreated them for years. Not a good look for Urban Meyer. Hiring a guy that has basically been shunned from a college university for being a racist. Terrence Pryor, former Iowa Hawkeye. Terrence Pryor tells a story about walking on to the University of Iowa football team beginning in 2009 until he graduated in 2012. He says, quote, while rehabbing after suffering a season-ending injury, I had the following conversation with Coach Doyle. Doyle says, hey, Pryor, you ever think that football isn't for you? Pryor responds, not at all. Why do you say that? Doyle then says, maybe you should take up rowing or something you know. Oh, wait, black people don't like boats in water, do they? Wow. He goes, this is one of many racist incidents that black athletes had to deal with during my time there. And there's a whole bunch of other stories. Deadspin did a great story on it. The work was put in by Karen Phillips, or Karan J. Phillips, I should say. If you get a chance, go and check it out. I'll put the article in my Twitter feed. I'm trying to get Karan Phillips on to actually talk about it. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this Thursday night / Friday episode of Up Late with Jason Page. Thank you for being a part of it. Urban Meyer won't make it more than 3 years there. That's usually about how long you get, unless you really bomb. My story of getting old, by the way, I found out I need reading glasses. I'm not going to get them, but I found out I need them. I'm going down with the ship on this one. Not going to get, I just can't do it. Can't do reading glasses. If you checked in the chat room, thank you for doing so. If you just watched and didn't check in, that's okay too, but it works better when you kind of interact. It's going to put the wraps on this show. I'm going to be eating so much food over the next couple of days because of Chinese New Year. I may not fit into this shirt by the time we get to next Monday, but I'm going to try. If you haven't done so, click the subscribe button, the like button, the follow button, whatever page you're watching us on, whatever platform you're watching us on. Follow us, subscribe. I appreciate it. If you have not subscribed to the Intersection podcast, do that as well. The Intersection podcast, available from Believe, B-L-E-A-V. It's on every platform: Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, Stitcher. That's about it for today. I'm Jason Page. I'm just pondering. I'm going to go get me some lunch while you guys all go to sleep. I'll see you next time. Up late. Bye.